Chapter 1. The Girl Who Trusted Too Fast. Emma Collins lived a quiet life in San Diego. She had everything people dream about. A successful company, a large house, and enough money to never worry again. But her heart felt empty. She missed her parents every day. Since her father's death, silence had become her only friend. Sometimes she sat alone at the dinner table and whispered, "I wish someone cared about me, not my name." One evening, her friend asked her to come to a charity event. Emma didn't want to go, but she went anyway because she was tired of being alone. That night, she met a man named Jake Turner. He was tall, handsome, and confident. His smile looked gentle and his eyes looked full of stories. When he said, "You must be Emma Collins. I've read about your work." Her heart beat a little faster. She said softly, "Yes, but I prefer simple talks, not interviews." He laughed and said, "Then let's talk. Like old friends." They talked for hours. He told her he grew up poor, that he had to work at gas stations to pay for college. He said, "I want to build a life where I never have to beg again." Emma listened carefully. She liked the way he spoke, not like the rich men she usually met, but like someone who understood struggle. When she came home that night, she couldn't stop thinking about him. For the first time in years, she smiled before sleeping. Days passed and Jake started calling her often. He sent good morning texts, asked about her day, and made her laugh with simple jokes. Emma's friend warned her, "Don't rush, Emma. You don't know him yet." But she said, "He's different. He listens to me." She didn't know that behind that sweet voice was a man already planning something bigger than love. Jake began showing up at her office with coffee and flowers. He praised her kindness. "You have no idea how special you are," he told her. Emma blushed and said, "Nobody ever said that to me." He smiled and replied, "Then they didn't see you the way I do." Each word felt real. Each smile felt warm. Emma started trusting him more than anyone else. One afternoon, Jake took her hand and said, "I want to tell you something, but promise you won't judge me." She nodded. He said, "My past isn't perfect. I made mistakes, but meeting you makes me want to become a better man." Tears filled her eyes. She whispered, "Everyone deserves a new start." She didn't notice how his eyes moved away when he said, "Thank you." In that moment, Jake knew she was exactly what he needed. Soft-hearted and easy to trust. Their friendship quickly turned into love. They started having dinner together, walking along quiet streets talking about dreams. Emma said, "I want someone who stays, even when I'm not smiling." Jake said, "You already found him." She believed every word. When he held her hand, she felt safe. But he was already hiding a secret life. A wife named Lily waiting in another city for his return. Weeks later, Jake brought a small gift. A bracelet with a silver heart. He said, "Wear this and think of me." She smiled and said, "You don't have to buy me things." He replied, "It's not about money. It's about you." She didn't know the same words were once said to another woman before her. Emma's neighbor, Mrs. Harper, an old lady who loved her like a daughter, once said, "Emma, be careful. Handsome faces can lie." Emma laughed and answered, "You watch too many movies." Mrs. Harper smiled sadly. "Movies learn from people like him," she said softly. Emma changed the topic, not wanting to believe that her happiness could be fake. Every night, Jake shared big dreams, houses near the ocean, travel plans, charity ideas. He said, "We'll make a life that others will envy." She said, "I only want peace." He replied, "Then you'll have it." His voice sounded honest and his touch felt warm. But every promise he made was only a step toward his dream life. One evening, Emma saw him standing near his car talking on the phone. His tone was different, sharp, cold. She heard him say, "Stop calling me. I told you. I'll handle it." When he saw her, he quickly smiled. "Just business," he said. Emma nodded but felt uneasy. Later that night she told herself, "Maybe I'm overthinking. He loves me." She tried to believe it. A week later he surprised her with flowers and said, "I can't imagine my life without you." She looked at him and whispered, "Don't hurt me, Jake. I can't survive that again." He hugged her tightly and said, "Never." For a moment, she felt her heart calm down, but in his eyes there was something she couldn't read, something hiding behind the love he showed. That night, as she closed her eyes, she dreamed of her father saying, "Trust is beautiful, but don't give it to everyone." She woke up with a strange feeling she couldn't explain. She went to the mirror, touched the bracelet Jake gave her, and said to herself, "Maybe love is worth the risk." She smiled again, unaware that her biggest test had already begun. Like, subscribe, and share. Read this story and many more on our website, bookishengalish.com. Link in the description. Chapter 2. The Perfect Love, The Hidden Lie. Emma's days started to feel brighter. Jake was now everywhere in her life. He texted her every morning and called her every night. He spoke softly, told her how beautiful she looked even when she didn't smile. She liked how he noticed small things. Sometimes he said, "I've never met a woman who understands silence like you." Emma laughed and said, "Maybe we're both tired of noise." He made her believe she was the most important person in his life. When he looked into her eyes, she felt safe. But Jake was not safe. He was careful. Every word he spoke had a purpose. He knew exactly what she wanted to hear. One evening they went out for dinner. Emma asked, "Jake, do you believe in true love?" He smiled and said, "I do." Now, her eyes softened. She replied, "I thought love was gone for me. You brought it back." He reached for her hand and said, "Then, don't ever let me go." That same moment in another city, Lily Turner Saturday alone in a small apartment. She was Jake's real wife. She held her phone, staring at his photo. She whispered, "Where are you, Jake? It's been months." She wanted to call but stopped. He had told her not to. He said, "If you want a better life, let me handle this. I'll come back rich." Lily had believed him once too, but now she only felt tired. Her heart still hoped, but her mind was scared. She looked at her little boy Ben and said softly, "Your father will come home soon, baby." But even she didn't believe her own words anymore. Back in San Diego, Jake's lies grew deeper. He started learning everything about Emma, her business, her family, her routines. He wanted control. He acted caring, but he was calculating every move. Sometimes he asked questions like, "Who manages your company? Accounts? Or do you trust your lawyer?" Completely. Emma didn't see the danger behind those words. She thought he was just being interested. Jake played his role perfectly. When she looked sad, he made her laugh. When she felt lonely, he made her feel loved. Slowly, she stopped meeting her friends. She said, "I don't need anyone else now." He smiled and said, "That's exactly how love should feel." Mrs. Harper noticed the change. She saw Jake's car parked outside every night. One morning she told Emma, "Be careful, dear. A man who moves too fast usually hides something." Emma smiled and said, "He's just sure about me." Mrs. Harper looked at her kindly and whispered, "I hope he's sure about himself too." Weeks passed and Jake started spending more time in her office. He told her, "You work too hard. Let me help." She felt touched. "You would do that for me?" she asked. "For you I'll do anything," he said with a soft smile. She believed him. He began managing small things at first, meeting suppliers, handling payments, reading Her emails. Emma felt relaxed. She told her lawyer, David, Jake's helping me now. I can finally breathe. David warned her, gently, just make sure he's not helping too much. Emma laughed. Don't worry, he's not that type. But Jake was exactly that type. He kept a separate phone, one Emma didn't know about. He used it to talk to Lily. One night he texted her, everything's working. Soon we'll be free from this poor life. Lily replied, don't hurt her, Jake. He stared at the message and wrote, she'll be fine. I just need her trust. The next morning Emma told him, I'm thinking of visiting my father's lawyer to change some company papers. Jake immediately said, you don't need to go. Let me check it. I understand business better now. His voice was calm but firm. She said, maybe you're right. I'll let you handle it. That night, Jake looked at her sleeping face and whispered, you'll give me everything soon, Emma. You just don't know it yet. The following week he introduced Emma to one of his friends, a man named Carl. He said Carl could help grow her company faster. Emma trusted him because Jake trusted him, but Carl was only there to help Jake move money. Every smile between them was part of a plan. Still, Emma's heart was full of love. She started planning small things for their future. Dinner dates, travel ideas, charity work together. One evening she said, I don't know why, but I feel my father would have liked you. Jake smiled and said, then he must have been a good man. That line made her laugh. She kissed his hand and whispered, thank you for making me feel alive again. Jake said softly, you deserve everything, Emma. You'll have it all. Inside his heart, he added silently, and so will I. But not everything was going perfectly for Jake. One afternoon he received a call from Lily. Her voice trembled. I can't do this anymore. You're lying to both of us. Jake replied coldly. Don't call again. She cried. You promised you'd come back, he said. I will when the time is right. He hung up. At that same moment, Emma walked into the room. She asked, who was that? Jake turned quickly and said, a business client. She's always dramatic. Emma smiled weakly. You sounded angry. He sighed. Business is pressure, Emma. You wouldn't understand, she said softly. Then teach me. I want to understand everything about your world. He looked at her face and felt a small fear. The fear that one day she actually would. Days later, Jake bought her a ring. It wasn't an engagement ring, but he said, this is for luck. Emma asked, luck? For what? He said, for our future. She smiled and said, then I'll wear it every day. She didn't know that his idea of future was not love but wealth. That night she wrote in her diary, maybe I found my forever. Jake in the next room was writing something too. A list of her bank details. The love story looked perfect from the outside, but behind every smile there was a lie waiting to explode. And that explosion was coming soon. Join our membership for exclusive English stories. Link in the description. Chapter 3. The Wedding. Without Truth, days turned into months. Emma's life now moved around Jake. She trusted him more than anyone else. He had become her morning call, her evening message, her reason to smile. When people asked if she was happy, she said, for the first time in years, yes. She didn't know happiness built on lies never lasts long. One night Jake held her hand and said, Emma, I can't imagine my life without you. She looked into his eyes and whispered, then don't. He smiled. Marry me. Her eyes filled with tears. You're serious. More than I've ever been, he said. You're my peace. She didn't know he was thinking about power, not peace. Emma said yes. She thought love was finally on her side. The wedding happened quickly. A few friends, a few smiles, and 1,000 dreams. Emma wore a simple white dress and cried. When Jake said, "I'll never leave you," he kissed her hand gently and smiled for the camera. Behind that smile he was already thinking of his next move. After the wedding, Jake moved into her house. He acted like a perfect husband. He cooked sometimes, laughed at her jokes, and told stories every night. Emma said, "I'm lucky to have you." He replied, "You are." His voice was calm, but his heart was cold. He soon began to take control of her world. He said, "Let me look at your business reports." She agreed. He said, "I'll handle the suppliers." She nodded again. Slowly, he became part of everything she owned. When her lawyer David tried to ask questions, Jake smiled and said, "I'm just helping my wife." David didn't trust that smile. Mrs. Harper came by one afternoon and said softly, "Emma, a smart woman keeps her eyes open even when her heart is closed." Emma laughed. "Jake's not like that." The old woman sighed. "I hope you're right." Jake knew how to make people believe in him. He sent gifts to Emma's staff, spoke politely to everyone, and acted like a caring man. But when he was alone, he made calls in a low voice. "Yes," he told someone, "the transfer will be soon." She has no idea. Emma once asked, "Who do you talk to so late?" He smiled. "A friend from work. He's facing problems," she said gently. "You never told me about him," he answered. "Because I didn't want you to worry." His words felt soft, but they carried poison. A week later, Jake told Emma he wanted to start a new project under her company name. He said it would make them both proud. Emma said, "If it's your dream, I'll support it." He kissed her forehead. "That's why I married you." She smiled, not realizing the truth hidden in that line. At night, Emma sometimes woke up and saw him sitting on the edge of the bed, staring into the dark. She would ask, "Everything okay?" He would say, "Just thinking about our future." She whispered, "Don't stay up too late." He smiled faintly. "Our future keeps me awake." Jake's calls with Lily became shorter. He told her, "Don't contact me again. It's dangerous now," Lily cried on the other side of the phone. "You promised you'd come back," he said coldly. "Stop living in the past." He ended the call and deleted her number. He didn't know Lily had already started keeping every message as proof. Time went by. Emma started feeling small changes in him. He became more distant. He forgot small things. When she tried to hold his hand, he looked away. "You're busy," he said. "I don't want to disturb you." She said, "You never disturb me." But he had already moved his heart away. One evening she found a gold chain under the car seat. It wasn't hers. She asked, "Jake, whose is this?" He looked at it for a moment and said, "Carl's wife must have dropped it." She wanted to believe him, so she nodded. But a quiet voice inside her whispered, "He's lying." A few days later she saw an unknown woman's name appear on his phone. "When?" she asked. He said, "That's my client." She replied softly, "I thought you worked with men." He laughed. "Women work too, Emma." She smiled weakly but couldn't stop the storm growing inside. David noticed her sadness. He said, "Emma, if you ever need help, call me. Don't think too long." She said, "I'm fine." But her eyes told a different story. At night she looked at Jake and said, "Promise me something." He asked, "What?" "Promise me you'll never hide anything from me." He looked at her for a long time and said, "I promise." Her heart melted again, but his promise meant nothing. Emma started writing a diary again. She wrote, "I think I married too fast. Maybe love blinded me, but I still believe people can change." She closed the diary and kissed it like a secret. That same night, Jake texted Carl, "Documents almost done. Within weeks, I'll move the funds." Carl replied, "Good. Make sure she doesn't see anything. Jake wrote, she trusts me completely. The next morning Emma made his favorite breakfast. She smiled and said, you're quiet today. He replied, just tired. She said softly, you can rest. I'll take care of work. He looked at her kindly and thought she's perfect for my plan. A week later he told her he had to travel for business. She hugged him tightly and said, come back soon. He smiled and whispered, always. But behind that smile the man she loved was slowly disappearing. The wedding had been full of dreams, but none of them were real. She had married love and he had married opportunity. Like, subscribe and share. Read this story and many more on our website bookishenglish.com. Link in the description. Chapter 4. The Cracks in the Dream. Jake was away on his business trip, or at least that's what he told Emma. She missed him deeply, but she also felt something strange inside her heart. It was not peace anymore. It was silence, mixed with doubt. Every time her phone rang she hoped it was him. But his calls became short. His words became cold. I'm busy, Emma, he said often. You know how work is. She smiled and said softly, I understand. But her voice broke after every call ended. Days passed. Emma decided to surprise him. She wanted to visit him in Los Angeles where he said he was working. She called the hotel he mentioned, but the receptionist said, we have no guest by that name. Her hands started shaking. She asked again, thinking maybe they didn't hear her right, but the answer was the same. That night she sat alone and whispered, where are you, Jake? The next morning she went to her office. Early, she noticed some missing papers from her desk. She called her manager and asked, did Jake take the company files? He said, yes. He said, you asked him to handle them. Emma's face turned pale. No, I didn't. Her heart began to race. She wanted to believe there was a reason, but her mind kept saying, he's hiding something. That evening David came to meet her. He looked worried. Emma, I got a message from the bank. He said, there's a loan under your name, $200,000. She gasped. That's impossible. I never took any loan. David's face was serious. It's your signature. Emma. Tears filled her eyes. Jake must have done it. David said softly. Then, he's not who you think he is. Emma didn't sleep that night. She sat near the window holding her wedding ring. She remembered his words. You'll never have to worry again. Now those same words sounded cruel. She whispered, why, Jake? Why would you do this to me? The next morning she called him again and again. He didn't answer. When he finally picked up, his voice sounded calm. Emma, don't panic. I'll explain everything when I'm back. She shouted. Explain what? You took money under my name, he said coldly. Lower your voice. I know what I'm doing. She cried. You're destroying everything. He replied, stop being dramatic, and ended the call. Emma broke down. She cried for hours. Then she called Mrs. Harper. The old woman came and hugged her. You trusted too much, dear, she said. Emma whispered. He made me believe I was safe. Mrs. Harper replied gently. That's what people like him do. They make you forget your own strength. A few days later Emma received an envelope with no name. Inside it was a photo of Jake with another woman and a child. On the back of the photo it said, Lily and Ben Turner. She stared at it, unable to breathe. Who are they? She said out loud. Then her heart dropped. Turner. The same last name as Jake. Her mind filled with flashes. The angry phone call. The perfume smell on his shirt. The missing papers. It all made sense now. She picked up her phone and called David again. Find everything about a woman named Lily Turner, she said. He asked, who is she? Emma replied, maybe the person who should have been his real wife. David started searching. Within hours he found the truth. He came to Emma's house with a heavy face. Jake Turner is already married. He said they never divorced. He changed his identity before marrying you. Emma covered her mouth. Her tears fell silently. So I was never really his wife, she said slowly. David nodded. I'm sorry, Emma. That evening Emma looked at herself in the mirror and whispered, how could I be so blind? She took off her wedding ring and placed it on the table. Her heart ached, but her eyes were dry now. Something inside her had broken forever. Later that night she heard a car outside. Jake was back. He entered the house, smiling, holding flowers. I missed you, he said as if nothing had happened. Emma stood still. You lied to me, she said quietly. He froze. What do you mean? She held up the photo. Who is Lily? Jake's face turned pale. He tried to speak, but no words came. You used me, Jake, she said, tears finally running down her face. You used my love, my trust, and my name. He shouted. It's not what you think. But she stepped back. I know enough. The truth was out, but the pain had only begun. Join our membership for exclusive English stories. Link in the description. Chapter 5. The Stranger on the Phone. Jake stood frozen in the living room. Emma's voice was calm but full of pain. Who is Lily? She asked again. He looked away. She's someone from my past, she said. No, Jake. She's your wife. He tried to speak, but she shouted, don't lie again. Her voice broke into tears. You played with my heart, my trust, and my name. Why? Jake took a step forward. I was desperate, Emma. I needed money. I didn't mean to hurt you, she said softly. But you did. Every single day was a lie. He dropped the flowers on the floor. I loved you in my own way, he said weakly. She laughed bitterly. No, Jake. You loved my world, not me. That night, she locked herself in her room. Jake tried knocking. Please just listen, he said. She answered from behind the door. I listened for months. Now it's your turn to listen to. Silence. The next morning he was gone. His clothes, his laptop, everything. Emma sat alone on the couch holding the photo of Lily and the child. Her eyes were empty. Mrs. Harper came by and asked, what happened, dear? Emma whispered. He used me. He was married all along. The old woman took her hands. You'll survive this. You're stronger than you think. For 2 days Emma didn't eat. She just stared at her phone, waiting for some message, some apology. But there was nothing. Until one night the phone finally rang. The screen showed an unknown number. She hesitated, then answered. A woman's voice said, Emma. Her heart raced. Who is this? The voice replied, my name is Lily Turner. I'm Jake's wife. Emma froze. Silence filled the air. Then Lily continued. I'm sorry for what you're going through. I warned him this would happen. Emma said in a trembling voice. Why are you calling me? Lily sighed. Because I was you once. He told me the same lies. Emma covered her mouth. You knew about me, Lily said quietly. Not at first, but when I found out I begged him to stop. He said he just needed money to fix our lives. I thought he'd come back, but he never did. Emma cried softly. I gave him everything. Lily whispered. So did I. For the first time Emma didn't feel alone in her pain. She said, he destroyed both of us. Lily replied, yes, but don't let him destroy what's left of you. Before hanging up, Lily said one last thing. He'll come back. He always does. Be ready. After the call, Emma sat in silence. She thought about Lily's words. She knew Jake too well now. He would come back. Not for love, but for what was left to take. The next day David arrived with new information. Emma, we traced the bank transfers. Most of your money is in an account under his other name, Jack Dawson. Emma said. So even his name was a lie. David nodded. He's a professional con man. He's done this before. Emma took a deep breath. Will the police help? David replied. Only if we report it. But it will take time, she said firmly. Then let's start today. Hours later, the police arrived. Officer Ryan Brooks listened carefully. As Emma explained everything, he said, We'll find him, ma'am. But you must stay calm. She looked at him with tired eyes and said, Calm is all I have left. That night she sat by her phone again. Midnight it rang. No name, just silence at first. Then Jake's voice came. Emma, please listen, she said coldly. You don't deserve my voice anymore. He replied. I made mistakes. But I still care about you. She answered. You care about money. That's all, he said softly. You don't understand. I had no choice, she whispered. We all have choices, Jake. You chose lies. He said. I can fix everything if you give me time. Emma laughed through her tears. You already took my time. Now take your silence too. She ended the call. After that, she felt something new. Not anger, not fear, but strength. She called David and said, Do whatever it takes. I want my life back. When morning came, she didn't cry. She opened her diary and wrote, I thought love meant giving everything. Now I know love should never cost your soul. The next day, Officer Ryan called. We found him. He's in a hotel. Under a fake name, Emma whispered. Then it's time to end this. She looked at the photo of Lily and Ben one last time and said softly, He used me to get his dream life. Now I'll use the truth to end his lies. Chapter 6. The truth behind his smile. Emma met Officer Ryan the next morning. Her voice was calm but heavy with pain. You found him? She asked slowly. The officer nodded and said, He's using another name, hiding in a small hotel. Emma closed her eyes for a moment and whispered, Then this ends today. She had cried enough. Now she only wanted truth. When she entered the hotel room, Jake froze. His eyes widened like a guilty man who already knew the end had come. Emma, he said quietly, I knew you'd come. She looked straight at him and said, I came to see the man who destroyed everything and still calls it love. He tried to smile, but his lips trembled. You still care about me, don't you? He asked. She shook her head. No, Jake. I came to close the door forever. The officer stepped forward. Jake's face turned pale. You called the police, he said angrily. Emma replied, You called them the moment you started lying. He shouted, You don't understand. I was trying to fix my life. I did it. For Lily. For my son. Emma's eyes filled with tears. And you broke me to save yourself? She asked softly. He tried to reach for her hand. Please, Emma, don't let them take me. She stepped back and said in a low voice, You took my peace. Let them take you. The officer handcuffed him as he whispered, I'm sorry. She turned away and said, Sorry doesn't bring back trust. At the station, she stood silently while Jake was led away. For a brief second, she saw not a monster but a weak man, ruined by greed. Officer Ryan said, It's over now. Emma looked at him and answered, For him, yes. For me, it's just beginning. Weeks passed. There were court hearings, papers, and endless questions. But she did not cry again. David told her, You can fight for revenge if you want. She shook her head. No, revenge keeps the pain alive. I just want peace. David smiled sadly and said, That's what makes you stronger. One afternoon, a letter came from prison. The handwriting was Jake's. Emma hesitated but opened it. Emma, I think about you every night. You were the only pure thing in my life. I ruined everything. If you can, please forgive me. She read it twice and whispered to herself, forgiveness doesn't mean return. Then she folded the letter and locked it in a small drawer she never opened again. That evening she visited Mrs. Harper. The old woman smiled gently and said, "You look different now." Emma replied, "Maybe pain can make a person new." Mrs. Harper nodded. "Scars heal, dear, and they remind us that we survived." Emma hugged her and said, "Thank you for never leaving me when everyone else did." The old woman smiled and said, "A heart like yours always finds light again." On her way home, Emma looked at the sky and whispered, "I'm free now, Dad. I finally learned what love isn't." Jake remained in prison for many years. She never saw him again, but she began helping other women who had been hurt by lies. Every time someone asked why she did it, she said softly, "He used me to get his dream life, but I used my pain to build a better one." Join our membership for exclusive English stories. Link in the description. Chapter 7. The Letters I'll Never Answer. Months passed after Jake's arrest. Life became quiet again, but silence no longer felt heavy. Emma was slowly learning to live without pain. She worked every day, helped others, and stayed busy. People said she looked peaceful, but only she knew how much it took to reach that peace. One morning she received another letter from prison. The handwriting was the same. She held it for a long time but didn't open it. She whispered, "You don't deserve more of my time." Still, she couldn't stop thinking about what it might say. That night she finally opened it. "Emma, I think of you every day. I know I don't deserve forgiveness, but I can't live without saying I'm sorry again. You were my chance to be a better man. Failed. If you can, remember me kindly." Tears rolled down her face, not because she missed him, but because she once believed every word he ever said. She said softly, "Jake, I already forgave you, but I'll never forget what you taught me." She placed the letter in a box with all the old memories, the bracelet, the ring, the first photo they took together. Then she closed the box and whispered, "Some stories don't need answers. They just need endings." Days later, another letter arrived, this time from Lily. It said, "He asked about you. He still feels guilty. But don't worry, I'll make sure our son grows up better than his father." Emma smiled sadly and said to herself, "Maybe some people are meant to teach us through their mistakes." After that, she stopped checking the mail. She didn't want any more letters. She wanted peace. She started writing her own notes again. Not about pain, but about strength. She wrote, "A woman doesn't break when she's hurt. She breaks when she stops believing in herself. I believe again." One evening she looked at her reflection and said, "I don't hate him anymore. Hate keeps you in the same story. I've already turned the page." Jake's letters stayed unopened after that day. She kept them in the same box and never touched them again. They were reminders of a love that never existed and of a woman who finally found herself. Chapter 8. A New Sunrise. Emma's life moved forward quietly after the letter stopped. Each day felt lighter than the one before. She no longer woke up with tears. She woke up with purpose. One morning she told herself, "I'm not broken anymore." She meant it. She began helping women who had gone through the same pain. Some came to her crying. Some carried shame. She listened to all of them and said, "You're not weak. You just trusted too much like I did." They smiled through tears, helping them heal the parts of her she once thought were gone forever. Months later, she started a small foundation called Second Sunrise. It offered support to women who lost everything after betrayal. Reporters asked why she created it. She said, "Because no one helped me when I needed hope. Now I want to be that hope for someone else." Her words touched many hearts across the city. One afternoon, while returning home from a meeting, she saw a little boy selling shells by the street. He looked poor but cheerful. What's your name? She asked kindly. Ben, he said with a smile. The name hit her like a whisper from the past. Ben, she repeated softly. The boy nodded. My mom says good people never die. Inside, her eyes filled with gentle tears. She bought every shell he had and said, Your mom is right. That night she wrote in her diary, life always brings back the light once you stop chasing the dark. She looked at the sky and whispered, Dad, I made it. I finally turned pain into peace. For the first time in years she felt truly proud of herself. She kept Jake's letters in one box, sealed and untouched. Not out of hate but as a reminder of how far she had come. She once loved a man who lied, but she ended up loving a life that was honest. She no longer wished to forget. She only wished to grow. She told herself, he used me to build his dream, but I built a better one without him. On the anniversary of her foundation, Emma gave a small speech. Her voice was steady, her eyes kind. Sometimes love doesn't give you a home, she said. It gives you a lesson. And that lesson can save someone else's life. The audience clapped with tears in their eyes. When she went home that evening, the sunset painted the sky orange and soft. She whispered, This is my new sunrise. And she knew she would never go back to the woman who once begged for love. She had become the woman who gave love to others instead. Join our membership for exclusive English stories. Link in the description. The end.